Alright, in the last time we saw how to enter data in a cell, how to edit it, and prior to that we saw how to select cells. So again, like if I want to select a cell, all I have to do is I have to go and click on that particular cell, like this cell. So I have selected D3. Now if I want to go and select some other cell like E10, I would know where E10 is. It's somewhere here, so I would go and select here. If I don't know where the cell is, the other way that I know is using the name box. I can type the cell address like say F25. I hit enter, and I am taken to that particular cell. So this is how I select one single cell. But if you want to select multiple cells, how we do it? So if suppose like I want to select both these cells, E2 and E3. I'm doing it right now one after the other. So right now I have selected E2 and now E3, but if I want to do both together, all I have to do is I have to select cell E2 by clicking on it. So if you're using mouse, then you click on it, right, by using a left click. But then you don't release the mouse, you drag it. So if you're using a laptop mouse pad, then what you do is you click on it, but then you hold the left click and just move your cursor down. So again, if I'm using a mouse, I would click on it and then I would drag it. Sorry, not drag it, just take the cursor down. That way I would have selected it. So again, if I want to select two cells, I select the first cell and I move my cursor down and then I release the left click. That's how I have selected multiple cells. The same goes if you want to select cells horizontally. So if I want to select from this cell F16 to until K16, so all I have to do is first click on this, left click, and just move my cursor, move the mouse, the cursor on the right. Do not release the left click, and once you're done, release it. That's how you would have selected it. Now if you have released the left click, and you can freely move your cursor until you click somewhere. So once you click somewhere, again that selection is gone and you would have selected a new cell, something like this. So again, if I want to select cells by using mouse or mouse pad, I will click on a cell using left click, and then I will not leave the left click, I'll just move my cursor. So here if you see, I'm just diagonally moving down, but I am also selecting the rows and columns on the right and the bottom respectively. So this is how you select cells, multiple cells at a time. Now, you can do the same thing with a keyboard. So example, like if I am on this cell F13 and I want to select two cells below it as well, then I hold the shift key and I use the down arrow key twice. So if I hit two times the shift key the down arrow key by holding shift key, I would have selected these three cells. If I continue doing the arrow key by holding shift key, I'll keep continuing to select the next few cells. Now I'm leaving the shift key, I'm using the arrow key now. So I am free to move to any other cell using the arrow keys up, down, left, right. Now if I want to select a group of cells with horizontally and vertically as well, so I'll do the same thing. I'll hold the shift key, I'll move first right, so I'm selecting cells on the right, and then I'll move my cursor, the arrow keys on the left, so that I'm selecting cells at the bottom. So this is how I select cells using either the mouse or mouse pad, or using the keyboard. Now if I want to select an entire column, what do I do? So like suppose if I want to select column K, it is not like going and selecting all the cells from top to bottom. What you do is you just hit on the top, that where it reads as K. K is the column name, so you hit there and the entire column is selected. If you want to do a row, you do the same thing. These are the row headers. So if I want to select row number 13, you click on top of 13 and the entire row is selected. If I want to select multiple columns, simple, you follow the same approach of selecting cells. You first select something, do not release the left key, do not release the left click, and just keep moving on the right, and you would have selected all the columns towards right. Same way, if you want to select multiple rows, then select first row, do not release the left click, and just keep moving down. I mean, move your cursor down, move the mouse down, and then you would have selected all the rows below as well. If you want to do the same thing with mouse without with keyboard without using the mouse, then you have a shortcut. So suppose I'm on this cell, I'm moving using the arrow keys, and I'm on this cell H15, and I want to select this entire column. So what I do is I use a shortcut, that is control space. Right, so this is how I would have selected the entire column. If I want to add more columns on the right to the selection, now I hold the shift key and then I use the arrow keys, the right arrow key. Once I'm done, I release everything, and this is how it is. If now I want to go to a particular cell, so I don't have the shift or control key pressed, I just use the arrow keys and move to any cell that I want. Suppose I'm in this cell and I want to select the entire row. So now the shortcut becomes shift and space. So I hold the shift key and hit space. This selects the entire row. So if I want to select multiple rows, many more rows, I keep holding the shift key and I move my cursor down. So I'm selecting all the rows below the selected row. Once I'm done, I can release it. I can do any operation, bold, italic, whatever you want to. And then once you're done, you can just move the cell with the arrow key, and you will release the selection. So this was how you would have selected multiple range, either rows, columns, or multiple ranges. If you want to select the entire sheet, what you do is you click on this area here, this gray area on the top in between the row labels and the column labels. If you select here, you would have selected the entire sheet. Now, if you want to do the same thing with a shortcut, then the shortcut would be Control A. So if you hit Control A, the entire sheet will be selected. But you have to be careful using Control A, because Control A is a shortcut actually to select a closed range. So suppose I'm on this cell which has some values, which has some value in it, and there are some values around it. So if I hit Control A, what happens is it will select the entire closed range. So to make the selection happen for the entire sheet, what I need to do, I need to hit Control A twice. So Control and A twice. So it's better idea to what I do is always to just to be cautious, on a safer side, I hit Control A twice. So if I'm on this cell or any cell, I hit Control A twice. So it works on if I'm on a cell which has a value in it. Control A, Control A. So this works well for me. So I'm sure that I have selected the entire sheet when I wanted to. So this was on selection of cells. There is a similar topic of like selecting cells, which is called copying a value or dragging using a mouse or mouse pad. So imagine that you want to have this value Tokyo below few cells as well. So instead of typing it again and again or copying and pasting, what you can do is you can drag this. So when I say drag, what I mean is you select the cell which you want to copy, or which you want to kind of paste it to some other cells, and you keep your cursor at the bottom right of the cell where it changes to plus symbol. Now what you do is you click the left click on the mouse and then move your cursor down. This way you are dragging a cell, dragging a value to the next consecutive cells. You can do the same thing on the right. So if I want to copy Germany to the cells on the right, all I have to do is click on Germany, keep my cursor here on the bottom right of the cell. This is where this is what I want to copy. So I would keep my cursor here, see that it turns to a plus or cross icon. So that is where I know it is ready to copy it on the right or anywhere. So this is where it turns to plus or cross. Now I left click and I drag it. Easy. So this is how I do it. Now if I want to do for this range, so I would select this range, So imagine, so see this, like, because it's not a one single cell, I want to copy this entire range on the right. So what I do, I have selected. How do I select? The initial class that I've told how to select cells is by clicking on the first cell. Do not release the left click and just move your cursor down. And so I have selected this entire range. Now I want to drag it right. So to drag, I have to keep my cursor on the bottom right where it turns to plus, and then I move my cursor right and release it. Now this has copied it on the right. So very subtle difference between dragging and selecting of cells using mouse. But in my experience, I have trained numerous people and I've seen many people kind of struggle to understand the difference between selecting and dragging. So dragging, always remember, you select the first cell and then you make your cursor go to the bottom right where it turns to plus or cross icon, and then you drag it in the direction where you want to copy that range. Whereas selection is simple, you just select a cell and then do not release the left click and just move your cursor down and you are selecting a cell. So selection is simple and dragging is something similar, but you make your cursor go bottom right, change it to plus icon, and then drag it right. Thank you.